Hello, everybody. Thanks for start that again. Thanks for joining me this evening. And I'm sorry I'm not as organized as I usually am. Hold on, just 1 second. Yep, just want to turn things off because I don't want weird noises going off. Sorry I'm not as organized as I usually am. It's kind of been a busy weekend. The reason being, it was my dad's 80th birthday. So that was kind of taken up with taking him out for his dinner and stuff and parties and what have you. So I'm a little behind with things. The reason I'm talking about the predators, the trolls and things like that, again, I put out on, I think it was Friday, and someone had asked about some of the people in the comment section, sort of narcissistic behavior, bullying behavior, things like that. And I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about. Now, I did do a video previously on trolls, trolling and things like that, but I thought it might be interesting to look at from the perspective of a live stream, because I can take questions as well. So, pardon me, quick sip. By the way, I would like to point out it is extremely warm up here today. It's very, very hot indeed. So I'll probably be drinking a lot. So anyway, to get to the point of waffle too much, trolling and predatory behavior isn't always easy to spot, certainly not at first. And sometimes we can see a comment, we can read a comment, and it might look like a red flag, and it could well be. But it maybe could be an innocuous comment or something. It could be something they've misunderstood. It could be they're asking you for more information. They just want some kind of clarity. They're not necessarily a troll or a predator. Also, whenever we put something out there, whenever we type something in a comment box or we put a post up somewhere, people are allowed to disagree with an opinion. But they don't have to go crazy. They don't have to threaten you. They don't have to over exaggerate. They don't have to, behave disgracefully and so on. So it is okay, I guess, to be disagreed with. I get disagreed with all the time, and people are entitled to. Sometimes actually they're right, I'm okay with that. I don't have that big an ego. But then there's other times you might start to notice something. And I think the key can be looking for patterns. Whenever you start to see patterns, okay? So it could be someone, maybe they want something from you. Like maybe they want to sell you something, or they want you to go to their web page or their platform or whatever. And even though it could be genuine, like, I've no problem with someone on my channel saying, I've made a video about this if anyone's interested. I've no problem with that whatsoever. People can do that. I don't necessarily think that's trolling. That's people trying to share information. But then there are those that might tell you they have the secret to fix something, or the secret to help you. They have a course or whatever. They have a book they can give you or whatever. So they're really trying to get you to engage. Then there are other kind of trolls who, it's like they will blame you for your grief. They will give you a hard time for the things you've been through. Now, sometimes when I'm putting out a video, I will ask if anyone has found anything useful, anything that might have helped them. If they want to maybe share what was useful, if they feel comfortable enough, please do so, because someone might benefit from it. But I always say, if someone feels comfortable with it, okay? Because bearing in mind, there are people out there, again, these trolling types that will pick you apart. They can be pedantic. They'll tell you spelled something wrong or whatever. They might blame you, as I say, for the things that you've been through. This is what I say about people. People can have an opinion, but what they can't necessarily do is they can't judge you, because they don't know your story. Okay? They don't know what you've been through, and they don't know your motivations and your reasons. But there are people out there can be very judgmental. Then there are others who are, and there is something quite sadistic in this, and I wonder, is this more like the spineless sadism that you would see in the sadistic subtypes? They enjoy your difficulties. They enjoy your problem. They get a kick out of it. And sometimes they'll do or say something because they like watching you squirm. They like to have you explain yourself. They like to have you try to justify your motivations. They like you to do work for them. And it really doesn't matter what you're saying. What they're doing is they are feeding off your attention. Just the fact that you're giving them any kind of attention. Now, as I say, it is important to look for patterns. So I'm just going to give you a few ideas to maybe recognize patterns, and also look at maybe the difference between what could just be a troll and what could be a predator. Okay, it's something very different when it comes to a predator. But if you look at the language and some of the things people say, they might reply to you, they might reply to someone else, or they might just reply to me if it's maybe on my channel, or they might just put a post out there, whatever. When it comes to trolling, you often look for a comment or phrases that are designed to incite a reaction, okay? Whether that's anger or embarrassment or shame or guilt, whatever it is, or something that's aimed at making you think they're superior, you're inferior, and so on. Maybe look for things like exaggerated language or offensive language, things that can be overly aggressive and maybe out of context to what the actual discussion is. It's got nothing to do with the discussion. They've just crowbarred something in to make it look, to try and make it fit there. So have a look at some of the language that they're using. If you get a sense, a lot of time your gut feeling is going to kick into gear here. If it seems that they're trying to elicit some kind of reaction from you, chances are you might well be right. Okay, so look for, as I say, the kind of language they use. Even if it's not overly offensive or overly aggressive, if they're asking you questions that have got nothing to do with what you've said, or as I say, they put up a post or they make a comment that's got nothing to do with the subject, or they're trying to intellectualize, they're trying to show, as I mentioned earlier, how much more superior they are or how inferior other people is. But one way or another, pay attention. They might just be trying to get some kind of reaction from you, okay? Something else to pay attention to would be, for want of a better term, maybe suspicious profiles. Now, this is the thing about the online world. There is a lot of anonymity. And I don't really have a problem with that, because some people are maybe just trying to keep themselves safe. They could have stalkers out there. They could have ex-partners out there. They could have people out there that would make their life a misery if they knew some of the things they were saying. I've really no problem with anonymity. On the downside of that, there are people who will exploit the fact that you can go online with an anonymous profile. The trolls and the predators, they might have a profile that looks like it's brand new, maybe a couple of days old at the most. Okay, they maybe have one follower and that's themselves. Okay, they're not necessarily following people themselves. They might well be, but probably not. So these profiles tend to be made up. It might just be a blank profile. Sometimes you might get some kind of generic photo, a nice picture of a field or something. You might even have a photograph of someone else. It's not them at all. Maybe these days AI can create it, or maybe they just take a picture randomly from somewhere, claim that that's them. When it comes to a predator, the predator would be different. As I say, the troll is desperately trying to get some kind of engagement from you. But a predator might use some kind of fake persona. They might seem overly polished. And I said about using false images, they might even use, as I say, stolen images. They might even use the images of, I mean, I've found it myself. People were using my image and claiming to be me on my own channel, trying to get people to ring them on WhatsApp and stuff. And okay, that's the troll. This is a predator. They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to get your information. They're trying to get something from you. From my perspective, I'm trying to imagine how sad someone's life would have to be that they would have to pretend to be me, probably the least interesting person you've ever met. But they're just my opinions. But one way or another, they might use these fake personas. They might pretend to be someone else. They could pretend to be someone from a huge account, someone maybe you follow. They might find out that you follow them or whatever, so they're pretending to be them. So pay attention to some of those fake personas, those fake profiles. Sometimes you find the person's name in a series of numbers or something, or a full stop where it shouldn't be, things like that. Pay attention to those things. Other than that, you might just get as I say, a picture. It could be like a cartoon, or was it anime or something like that they call it. I can't remember the name of that kind of animation, but you might get things like that. As I say, they might be recently created. They've little to no followers, little to no interaction. So pay attention to those kinds of suspicious, if you want to call it, profiles. What you might find as well, and you'll find this with both trolls and predators, they will spam a lot of threads. They will message a lot of people, sometimes even in the one chat thing, okay? Again, could be things that are irrelevant, but they're largely repetitive, okay? And they're either aimed at disrupting conversations, again, trying to get you to go follow them onto their little piece of whatever it is they're doing. What you might find, if you're finding repeated patterns, you'll find this with predators, you might get a message, especially someone who has been in some kind of distress, they've been through something, they're talking about how they've struggled. You will get a message, you know, how are things for you now? I hope things are okay now. And that sounds okay. And the person could well be genuine. But what you might find, if you have a look, that same person and that same profile has been messaging several people in the one conversation, hoping someone is going to engage with them. Either that, or they might keep trying to steer conversations, discussions towards your personal details, talking about inappropriate topics, asking for maybe private details from you, even private contact details. Now, as a rule, I generally don't delete people's comments. Now, sometimes comments disappear. I don't know why that is. It's nothing to do with me. I don't know why it is. Sometimes comments might disappear. The only comments I ever delete are when I see someone is acting in a very trolling kind of way, if I catch it, or if they're being very predatory. There's been only two that I've ever come across that got into some kind of conversation with someone, and they kept steering the conversation around, let's talk about this maybe over email or something, you know. The person or the people in both cases seemed kind. They didn't just want to say, no, I don't want to be doing that. But they were kind of kind how they were, you know, deflecting that and so on. But these people kept pursuing it. Okay. Those people, I deleted their comments and I blocked them from the account so they couldn't go on it again, because they weren't just trolling. There was something predatory there, trying to get people who were vulnerable to give them their personal contact details. So it's not pleasant to be on the wrong end of people like that. What you sometimes find as well is, if you were open enough to say, no, I'm not giving you my details, that's when they can become very mean and nasty. Okay, that's when they can start using derogatory language, maybe threatening language, things like that. They're not getting what they want. I wouldn't even say that's a sign, that's an indicator. I would say that's actually proof. Okay, you're dealing with a predator. I mentioned a moment ago about being vulnerable. Trolls will target pretty much anybody, anywhere they can try to get any kind of contact, any kind of interaction. Predators are different because they tend to focus on people they would consider to be vulnerable. Now, that could be young people, that could be older people, that could be people who are in some kind of distress, illness, trauma, whatever. They will target people they consider to be vulnerable. Sometimes excessive flattery, promises of this, that, and the other, promises of rewards, maybe, sympathy, a performative kind of empathy, okay? But as I say, your gut feeling might tell you it's not that they're being nice, they're being overly nice, or maybe pushing the agenda. And if you look closely, you might find they are messaging lots of different people, that they consider to be vulnerable in order to get, again, any kind of engagement. So watch for comments, I guess, that would be very overly personal, things that might seem manipulative, more kind of coercive rather than persuasive, towards specific kind of users, specific kind of people. Okay. The other thing, going back to the trolling, regardless of what you put out there, you might be dealing with someone that they don't really want to engage in good faith. Okay. Which is why if you respond to them, they start a debate, they ask you a question, they'll dodge the question, they'll twist your words, they'll use fallacies, they will do whatever they can to frustrate you rather than discuss something. Your 5-word question might get 47 paragraphs worth of an answer. And just the fact that you're reading that absolute bollocks is feeding their ego, because you're engaging with them. So you do get bad faith actors, if you will. It doesn't matter what your response is as long as you're responding. Even if you respond with anger and frustration to them, they're still getting something from it. Predators would be different. Even though they are engaging in bad faith, they can be more charming. As I say, there's a lot of feigned empathy and so on. There can even be a feigned expertise, okay, just to try and gain your trust. They know what you're talking about. They have been through what you've been through. They know someone and this helped them. They have a course to do this, and if you want to talk to them privately, they'll tell you how to help yourself and so on. But again, it's very false, okay? If you're reluctant or if you're hesitant, pay attention as they pursue it. I say that because most people might put the offer out there, look, if you want any information, here it is, whatever, or you can ask me whatever it is you want, I'll answer as best I can. When you do, if you don't really respond to them, if you don't answer them, if you say, well, thanks, but no thanks, they'll leave you alone, okay? Another indicator is they pursue it. And as I say, sometimes they can become quite aggressive, okay? So really, I guess what you're looking at there as well are unusual interactions, okay? Because something else has just come up, just something else I'm thinking is you might get a lot of likes on almost everything you do. It's the same person. Doesn't matter what you do. You could be saying you had toast for breakfast and they're liking it, There's a lot of interaction. They're commenting or liking everything you do. Trying to gain, build some kind of familiarity, okay, with being overly friendly, overly nice, overly supportive, and so on. And as I say, predators tend to target people that they consider to be vulnerable. Trolls, on the other hand, they will target everybody, okay? They might send the same message, the same things to multiple people, but still trying to provoke some kind of reaction, okay? Again, it's either to annoy you, it's to amuse themselves, it's to try to get you to do something for them, whatever, or just to disrupt whatever the conversation is. Because you can have several people and they're talking about, they'll be talking about the weather, they'll be talking about the movie that was on television last night. They could be talking about anything. And they just keep on trying to disrupt it with something completely irrelevant, okay? Just to annoy and frustrate. Whenever they're challenged, again, that's what you're talking to a troll, looking at these interactions, these unusual ones, and then the bad faith interactions. If you were to challenge them, you give them a new piece of information, or you give them a perspective they hadn't considered, or even if you just give them facts, okay, hard reality, they tend to double down, and they double down typically with insults, okay? A vague claim, A vague claim, not necessarily evidence, but they might talk about it as if it is actually fact, it is evidence, because their second cousin, it happened to them and they told their uncle about it, and then all the rest of it. It's going to be a lot of anecdotal stuff, but they will talk about what they think as if it's actually evidence. So again, you're going back to bad faith interactions. Predators, on the other hand, they're going to talk about something typically, and I'm talking about the Machiavellian, the more the very manipulative type people that are really good at coercing people. They might do or say something and be able to avoid verifiable details. They'll be able to avoid giving details about themselves. They will keep interactions very ambiguous, but they can do it in a way that kind of keeps you hooked, where it's almost like you're doing the work and you're trying to get more information out of it. Tell me more about that. That sounds really interesting. That sounds really helpful. And the more you're doing that, again, the more they're pulling you into their world. If you think of a narcissistic person in a relationship in those early days, presenting themselves to be the very thing that you think you need, the very thing that you find attractive, the very thing that you admire, they start to morph into that. And the predators online would use the same kind of tactics. They become the very thing that intrigues you, if you will. Okay. But a lot of what they do is ambiguous, and it's ambiguous for a reason. When a troll is being ambiguous, it's different. It's because they don't have any information. Okay. The predator is different because they're trying to reel you in. The predator, by using that ambiguous information and questions and little comments and so on, trolls they want instant reaction, which is why a lot of their stuff is very poorly thought out. They just react to things. They just say things to get a laugh, to get whatever it is. Predator can be more gradual, okay? There can be more of a strategy. That's why I say they're more Machiavellian. There are tactics. They have an end game. So like I say, it could be liking your pictures, your comments, innocent comments, agreeing with this, pointing out that, showing a feigned empathy. And that's when they try to escalate it to get your information for maybe private messages. Now, if it's YouTube's different, I don't think you can do private messages on YouTube. I don't think you can. No, you can't. But if it was something else, it was like Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr or whatever, these lots of different platforms are, there probably are ways of sending through personal messages. If they just jump into your personal messages thing straight away, there might be something in that, something a bit suspicious, which is why you might get little gradual things like comments, likes, and so on before they start sending through messages like that. So it is worth being wary, being cautious around people who push for contact, push for your private information, push for things like private messaging and so on. As much as I said a moment ago about them being ambiguous, there is something to be careful as well, something to be mindful about. When people start pushing out a lot of their, I would say a lot of time it's made up, their personal stories, not personal information as such, but personal stories. These things they've been through, these things they overcame, these things they helped, or these things that helped them. This is the thing about predators. Don't forget about predators. Predators are very sneaky by nature, and sometimes they can be very good at making themselves look as if they are badly hurt and wounded to try to elicit your sympathy in the hope that maybe you'll message them or you'll like their stuff or you'll comment on them. So it is worthwhile paying attention to those things. I found it interesting when I was researching things like online trolling. The incel ideology is not so much the incel people, but the ideology in some of those forums and things like that. Stalking and so on. I found it interesting when I was looking at the research. There is a component to that, which is actually loneliness. Loneliness is not pleasant. Whenever to feel lonely, it's not nice at all. But the thing is, what they found in the research is there is a dark side to loneliness. It can breed things like resentment. Okay. Um, a lot of the trolling behavior, what you might find is there's loneliness is behind that. And this is the thing, whenever, this is going to sound unkind, but bear in mind, I've been on the wrong end of many a troll. If you're lonely and you want to make friends or you want to have some kind of contact, positive contact, antagonizing strangers is probably not the best way to go about it. Okay. Um, just thought I'd throw that in there, by the way, about the loneliness. I thought that was interesting. Predators, you might see a different kind of loneliness. Maybe they're predators for different reasons. But again, the difference with the troll wants any kind of engagement, even if it's just to annoy the hell out of you. Predator wants something else. They want your attention, they want your money, they want whatever it is. They want you in their life. They're trying to get a new supply or whatever. There is different intent. So some things that you might find useful could be, have a look at that person. That person that's maybe commenting or asking you questions. If possible, try to look at their comment history on whatever it is you're looking for. Trolls tend to leave a trail of destruction everywhere they go, annoyed people and so on. Whereas a predator might have a pattern of targeting specific kind of people, as I said, maybe vulnerable people or whatever, or even just people they want to bully. Could be anyone. Could be men, could be women, could be young people, could be old people. They just want someone to bully, someone to harass, someone to feel superior to, someone that they can make their life a misery. That's not easy if you find that their profile is, as I say, it's pretty much brand new. It might be a few days old, maybe a few hours old, maybe a few weeks old, but they've little to no content of their own, okay, other than maybe just spamming a lot of stuff out there. It's worth paying attention to as well, if you do have a look at some of their behaviors, to recognize that they might be messaging a lot of people the same kind of things. Okay. Again, predators going to look for specific types. Trolls are just, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as they get some kind of engagement. Okay. I said earlier on about your gut feeling. Sometimes it is worth trusting your instincts. Now, it doesn't mean we're mind readers. Okay. Doesn't mean we know everything. But if something feels off, in the sense that someone is maybe being overly friendly, they're not just being nice, they're not just being polite, they're being overly friendly, they're being overly familiar, maybe overly persistent, that's something worth paying attention to. You might not want to engage any further. Bearing in mind, if you don't, that's when sometimes the anger and the vitriol comes. There is most platforms I'm not big into. I do use social media, but I'm not big into it. I don't know how it works, which is why I'm not that big on it. There are block buttons, mute buttons, things like that. There are things, I believe, and most of them you can report harassment and stuff like that. The little things you can do to try and keep yourself safe, as maybe just using those block buttons and stuff. As I said, I generally don't block people from my channel. I don't delete comments as such, but I do if I see that kind of not just trolling, more predatory stuff. Trolling people, yeah, doesn't matter what it is. Someone put a comment, they either liked or they didn't like the video, they give their opinion on it, they might, and somebody just jumps in with a lot of nonsense. Now, if it's a one-off, I might generally leave it. If they are pursuing it, if they are persistent, then maybe I might do something about it. The two cases I mentioned earlier on, in both those cases, it could have even been the same person for all I know. There was a few months between them. Again, trying to get someone to engage in a personal conversation with them outside of the YouTube thing. Both cases, the people, as I say, were they were polite. They didn't tell them where to go. They were polite. They kind of sidestepped the issue. But in these cases, they kept pursuing it. And I thought, no, that's definitely predatory. Can't have that. So other than that, no, I think people are entitled to disagree. People are entitled to call me up when I've done something stupid or wrong, as long as they're not rude. I try not to be rude, so I hope they're not going to be rude. Off topic again, back to topic. Last thing I will say is to limit your personal info. As I say, if I ask someone to share anything that might have helped them, I always say if you feel comfortable enough. Some people might not want to do that. I don't want to put people under pressure to talk about things they don't want to talk about, things they might feel uncomfortable about, or things they fear might identify them if they are trying to keep some kind of anonymity. But it's only if you're comfortable about. Even if you're doing that, try not to share personal details if possible. Anything at all that a troll or a predator might exploit. I don't know, it might be your name, but your name's probably on it anyway, unless it's an anonymous thing, an anonymous profile you have. What you do for a living, where you work, things like that, what your job is, the town you live in and stuff like that. Whatever it is, try to keep those things, and don't share those things, try to keep things at a minimum. Above all, I guess it's just about keeping yourself safe. What I would say as well is if you're consider yourself to be part of a community, which I would like people to feel they're part of a community if they come onto my channel, keep an eye out for each other as well. Okay, keep an eye out for each other as well, because it might not be you that's being targeted by someone. It could well be someone else, part of the community, someone that you recognize in the comment section. Keep an eye out for each other as well. So a bit quicker tonight, but I did say it's because I'm hardly really prepared because of in case anyone missed it at the beginning, I said I'm not really prepared this week because it was my dad's 80th birthday yesterday. So just taken up with a lot of partying. Well, it's like I was out all night partying. I wasn't really. Dinners and things, as much as an 80-year-old man can enjoy a piece of cake and a nice chicken dinner or whatever. So I'm kind of running a bit behind. So let's go back and let's have a look at any questions that might come up. Remember, if you do have questions, please put a question mark. It's going to be easier for me to see it. Okay. So let me do a little pop-out screen. Where are we? There we go. And it's now suddenly easier for me to read. So let's go back to the beginning. Hello, Phil. Hello, Ellie. Hello, Dimitri. Hello, Ellie. Hello, What's Pots and Pans. That's the thing I said earlier on about anonymous things. Again, I don't see anything wrong with an anonymous if you want to use a username. I just think some of the usernames are really creative. They're really funny. Some of them I think are so clever. I wouldn't even know what to come up with. I don't know. What would Here's a competition before the end of the live stream. Think of a username for me that would keep me anonymous but would still identify me. Okay. Right. Dimitri the Monk. Selling stuff on eBay. Like, I've had a few very weird encounters. Like one type would just waste my time asking about the product. What's this? What about that? Or yeah, again, it's a difficult one because sometimes people are genuinely interested to want information, but it's whenever you get like a lot of ongoing questions, it's whenever you get a lot of nonsense. I'm saying I'm selling a pair of size 10 trainers. Okay, what size are they? It was in the description. Things like that. Again, some people just want your engagement. Other people, they can be, I don't know, they just want every bit of information before they part with their money. It's really hard to discern sometimes. Hello, Dr. Suzanne. I have twice received identical message from a person. Picture is all uniformed up. Don't trust this at all and block them. What I would be curious at there, Dr. Suzanne, was it the same person, do you think? Or was it someone who used the same, two different people who just used the same picture? That would be an interesting one. As I say, sometimes they will use generic pictures. They will take a picture of someone. about a year or so ago, I was talking to Richard Gran, and we did a live stream together, and we were talking about things like dating sites and social media and how narcissists use it. And I made a joke about I put up a picture of me from about 15 years ago. I had dark hair, I didn't need glasses, or I photoshopped my head onto this muscle man's body or something, or I pretend I'm, pardon me, I pretend I'm a lot younger than I really am, or do you know what I mean? Things like that. Um, Using those kinds of generic images that they might have got from maybe Facebook or Twitter or somewhere, they're pretending that's them. So if you got the messages, it might be worth thinking, was it from the same person twice, or was it two different people using the same picture? Again, it's a hard one to figure out, but it is worth thinking about. Okay, Dimitri's asking, second would ask, add a few sneaky insults, talk shit about the product and would order it, and then you refuse to take it upon arrival past 2 weeks. It's hard to know what's going on there. They argue it, but they don't take it to send it back. They throw in a few insults. Could be whatever's going on with them. The most we could ever do is speculate. I would just use the term a time waster. Someone that wastes your time. That's all it is. Are these sociopaths or what? They can be. Typically, I see with predatory behavior, I think quite commonly what you see are dark personality types, dark tetrad types. So there is sociopathy or psychopathy, antisocial, really. There's narcissism. There's being very manipulative, which is Machiavellian. Do what they want, say what they want to get them what they want. There can also be sadism. There can be a sadistic nature to it. I think you can see what you would call spineless sadism with the trolls. Okay, they're very brave because they're behind a false name or whatever. They can do and say what they like because no one can touch them. They're anonymous. Maybe they think. I'm sure there's some way of finding them. I don't know. They also think who they're insulting and who they're trolling. They don't really see them as a real person. You're just sport, really. So there can be different things going on. So there can be sociopathy. I think commonly it's the four. It's the four things that make up the dark tetrad. Say the sociopathy or psychopathy, narcissism, sadism, and Machiavellianism. Reminds me of your video on narcs, the black and white thinking. You said a hand puppet show wouldn't work. Yeah, there are some people who just will not get it. Sometimes they just don't want to get it. Doesn't matter what it is. Plain simple language. You go through every crayon in the box and they're still not getting it. You use the glove puppets, doesn't matter. You use plain simple language. You try to avoid words of more than 2 syllables and they're still staring at you like, what was the question? Yeah. Where did we get to? Oh, just jumped. I wanted to get back because I thought there was something I saw there. Indigo's, this is an interesting point. Behaviors of online predators aren't taken seriously enough. Report them almost feels shameful for those who speak up. Almost feels shameful for those that speak up. I'm wondering why. Is it because maybe people don't take it seriously? I mean, who are you speaking up to? Is it blocking them? Is it reporting, I wouldn't say bad language, threatening language, things like that. Feeling as if nothing's done, or maybe, I don't know, maybe going to the police or something if it's in the real world. I would say whether it feels shameful or not, do it anyway. You're keeping yourself right, you're keeping yourself safe, and sometimes what you might find is if there is a repeated pattern of behavior, the people that you're reporting it to, sooner or later, they're going to have to act. They're going to have to do something if something is continually being reported. Of course, there are always going to be exceptions to that, and I'm sorry about that. But it's always about keeping yourself right. Don't, I wouldn't say, there's no shame in being on the wrong end of a bad person. No shame whatsoever. Sometimes we get on the wrong end of a bad person because what they're doing is they're exploiting the good in us, exploiting the decency in us. Some people will even exploit the fact that you might feel shame or embarrassed to report them. But really, there is no shame and there's no shame in having believed someone's lie. There's no shame in feeling threatened. No shame in any of that. Whether you feel it or not, that's entirely up to you. But I would say no. There's no shame in being on the wrong end of a monster. So where we get to takes one bad apple. Yeah, in a whole. Let's imagine it's an online thing. Okay, let's imagine there's 100 people talking in this online thing. It's a forum, it's a Facebook page or something, whatever. There's 100 people, and they're all talking about their ideas, sharing their ideas, talking about their holidays, talking about having to cut the grass at the weekend, talking about things to find useful and helpful. Oh, you're right. It only takes one person. It only takes one troll to try and disrupt that, to try and ruin that for everybody, and that's what they get a kick out of. I read part of the research I read as well when it came to trolling behaviors is they generally don't engage in forums that are well moderated. They tend to go to places where they're going to get a free for all. I think predators might be the same. If they see that something is well moderated, there's no bad language, threatening language, things like that, and people are encouraged not to share personal stuff and so on, you might find that they're going to leave that alone. Remember, they're only going to target the vulnerable. Okay. Very happy Mondays. Congratulations and happy birthday, dear my father. Thank you very much. My dad, God love him, he's 80 years of age, and when I told him about YouTube, he had no idea what it was. Told him I'm on YouTube now. I do stuff on YouTube. I had to show him what YouTube was. He says it's like a TV on the computer. Yes, Dad, that's exactly what it's like. God love him, but yeah, he's 80 now. It's scary because it's funny when you think of your dad when you're small. Your dad's the biggest person in the world. He used to sit on the shoulders and stuff. He used to chase you up the stairs screaming at you because you did something stupid. One frown and you were terrified. But then you look at him now, he's just this frail old man and scary because I was going to say I'm going to be like that someday. I probably do look like that to young people, today's young people. But yeah, it's funny that's things like just time has just went so quick. But thank you anyway. I will pass on your happy birthday to him. What's pots and pants? No, not at all. I said I would be here on Sunday night. I just forgot it was my dad's birthday weekend. I said I'd be here, and I am here. I'm Freud's. Yes, Dr. Suzanne, I am Freud's dad. Yes, he is. He's my son. He's got my brains and my looks. Where do we get to? Sure, understand Facebook friend requests from fake people. Yeah, I don't do a lot on Facebook. I used to years ago. I don't do much on it now. I would just use it. I have a page where I would. It's sentient counseling is my page. That's the name of my practice, and I would just use it to put out the videos I put out on YouTube just to try and push them a little bit. But other than that, I don't do a lot on Facebook. And it's funny, the very rare times I go on, I can see a lot of friend requests from people I've never heard of or met. And I don't really look at them. Some names sound familiar and it might say we'll have mutual friends. So I think, okay, maybe there's something in that. But then there's others. Sometimes there isn't even a picture, and it's a name of someone I've never heard of. So yeah, if that's what you're saying, requests from fake people, that could be what's going on there as well. Other than that, then don't forget Facebook. It's like any other social media. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to have, they're going to be fake in the sense that it's like they're living their best life, if you know what I mean. It's a persona. It's a persona. So, hello, Grill. Good to see you. Hello, Sharon. Where do we get to? Lily hurts. Oh, I hope you don't hurt for long. Hope you feel better soon. Happy Sunday from Boston. Happy Sunday from good old Northern Ireland. Right, so where do we get to? Beverly is asking. I'm almost at the point where I have such a distrust of people or AI on the internet. Now someone like Paul Revere has to ride up on a horse with a handwritten letter from a wax seal. Yeah, just say about the internet, I think is really good in the sense that we have instant information, instant connection, instant communication. It's like everything else. It can be used badly. It can be used for the wrong thing. It can be used in a very self-serving, narcissistic kind of way. You mentioned AI. I have been saying something recently that hasn't really gotten a lot of traction. Some people have said that it's making them think. AI, I think, is a good thing. I've been experimenting with AI, but only because I just want to experiment. I've asked it to make thumbnails for me, and sometimes it will make a thumbnail, and I look at it and think, well, that's certainly a better job than I could have come up with. But then other times it will make a thumbnail for me, and it gave me long hair once. I looked like my own twin sister. Another time it created a thumbnail of me, and it gave this artist's impression. I looked like the new Doctor Who. It was just weird. AI, I think, is a very strange thing. If I thought AI would be useful, because I don't know much about it, I haven't used it a lot. If I think it would be useful for something like research, I would probably use it. I'd probably like to be able to use it quite effectively. My concern is if I asked it to find out something about, for me, something about some topic or whatever, it's going to be good because it's going to give me a lot of different places, just like the Google page would. So that time it's probably doing the same thing. But my concern is when it says things like, do you want me to, I'm not sure if it asks this question, I'm just guessing, I'm speculating. Do you want me to write out the main points for you? Okay, that's quick and easy, that's useful, but then I'm not actually reading the stuff. All I'm getting are like bullet points, so I might not get it in the context. Whereas something like a search engine is different. I have to go through the Scholar articles and I have to, maybe type in keywords so it's going to find the chapter or whatever that I'm looking for. And I think AI as well, when, I could probably do my videos with James Mason's voice or something, James Mason, very famous actor, just for anyone here that's under 50. Okay. My concern about AI as well is if you can program this device to interact with you in a certain way, that's not a bad thing, not necessarily a bad thing. My concern is, though, AI could have the same impact on social interaction as pornography has had on sex. Okay? It makes it very false, makes it very transactional. If you have programmed a device that's always going to validate you, never challenge you, always tell you what you want to hear, what are you going to do when you meet someone in real life who doesn't? Okay? Just like how, pornography rots the brain. Young guys that get hooked on it, what are they going to do when they meet a real girl? Okay? With a personality, with autonomy and things like that. That's my concern about AI. I really do hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope there's enough safeguards in place. I hope, whoever designs these things will have enough wit to see something like that. But that's my concern with AI. I think like anything else, just like Google was, just like the search engines, it's going to be useful. It's going to have its purpose. It's going to have its role. It's just, my concern is how it might corrupt even things like critical thinking. Okay, if you have something that's going to tell you what you want to hear and give you the information you want, as opposed to giving you a variety of information. Sorry, I just hit something there. A variety of information, even information that might disagree with your point of view and perspective. It just tells you what you want. I don't think we're going anywhere good with something like that. Okay. If you think about it, a machine that constantly validates you, that's a narcissist's wet dream. That really is. Okay. So where did we get to? I don't have waffle when I go off on tangents. So where did we get to? Yes. Here we are. Shiny Conquer. Again, there's another one of those names. I love where people come up with these things. I run an online service and someone seems genuinely interested but demands my time, share their emotional stories, don't state what they want, ignoring it's a paid service. How do you handle it? The same way as you would handle maybe someone coming in. Let's imagine you worked in a shop and just someone who comes in and asks you about every item, doesn't particularly want to buy anything, might ask you, can they try it on? Every single item in the shop? Really? Might ask you, can they borrow it for the weekend to see what they think, and then they might buy it. Treat it the same way. If you're running some kind of a business, okay, now this is the thing. I'm self-employed, okay, and sometimes people contact me, they want to make an appointment. I have no issue with that. If I can see them, I will, if I have availability. Sometimes they might want a conversation. They might want to talk to me first, which I don't have a problem with, because they might want to know, might want to get an idea of whether or not they feel comfortable working with me. They might want to get an idea if they think I can help them. What kind of approaches am I going to use? What kind of person? There's a lot of different stuff going on. I have no problem doing that. And I will talk to them, usually for about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, or something like that. I'll answer whatever questions they might have. But what I don't do is I don't start engaging in therapy within that. And I have to make it clear that it is time limited. We are only going to be about 20 minutes or whatever. Sometimes I will give those extra few minutes, depending on what we're talking about. So it's really how you manage your boundaries, okay? There are some people who are just going to keep on trying to get freebies. There are some people who are maybe desperate for some kind of attention. The fact that you're giving them attention it's giving them something, your attention. They're telling you emotional stories. They might be trying to get your validation. This is a difficult thing because it doesn't mean that the emotional stories, it doesn't mean they're not real. Doesn't mean that they're not important to them. But it's really up to you to make them aware of the boundaries, keeping it clear what it is they want. What is it you actually want? If they can't tell you, and if they say they want more information, if you have like a web page or something, maybe I'll tell them all the information they need is on that, or a flyer or something if it's in the real world. Give them whatever information they need, but you don't necessarily have to keep engaging with someone that's not really fully. It's like I say, the person comes into the shop and they want to try on every item of clothing, and they're asking you dozens of questions about each item. Some point you're going to have to say, well, you know what, you're going to buy something or not. Phrase it better than that. That way. But yeah, it's just about making them aware that there are limits to what you can do for them before they have to start paying. So where did we get to? Yeah, Beverly, I'm glad I had time with my dad too. I don't get to see him as much as I used to. I don't know how many people watching are in the UK. So anyone from further afield, you might not get this. You might want to do a Google search or something. My mum, my dad, and me, especially when I was a teenager, typical teenager, I knew everything in the world, and he was just an old fool. And we were constantly bickering with each other. And my mum used to threaten us. She used to say we were going to end up like steptoe and son. So anybody who doesn't know what steptoe and son is, go and have a look. It's this old comedy about two rag and bone men during the 70s. So very on PC by today's standards, but still, back in the day, it was quite funny. So, where did we get to? Yes, Sally, I'll wish him a happy birthday. Me as well. I'll let him know. I'll let him know my viewers are wishing him. Dr. Suzanne says AI is amazing. I don't doubt it. It can do some incredible things. I've seen people do incredible things that make movies, and it's sometimes hard to figure out what's real and what's AI. It's just my concern. It's like anything else. It's whenever it's misused. Um, I could, if I knew enough about it, and if I was smart enough and I knew how to program stuff, I could take someone I don't like and I could make a video of them, doing or saying something really horrible. That's my concern with it, um, among other things. But I already mentioned those things. MR says, I like your sense of humor, how you explain things. Thank you. I do not have an overly academic mind. So I like things to make sense to me. And I like to explain things in a way that I assume that if I understand it, then you'll understand it too. Okay. And that's why I kind of explain things the way I do, because I'm sort of, I wouldn't say simple minded, but I'm kind of easy going. I'm not overly academic, put it that way. Where to go? Oh, Suzanne says, where was it when I wrote my dissertation? How dreamy it would have been. I'm jealous of people writing now. Well, this is the thing. That's the thing as well about how I can create to write dissertations and stuff. There's ease, and it's helpful. Just like Google became very helpful. Stopped me having to run to the library to borrow books to try and find references for whenever I was training to be a therapist, having to look up everything, read the whole book to try and find something. It became useful that way, and yeah, AI is exactly the same. But let's say it's if things become too easy for us, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I've no problem with an easy life, by the way. Do not make things too difficult for yourself. That's what I always say. However, the quick and easy path of least resistance rarely takes us where we want it to. That's the thing. Sometimes it leads us to further misery, hardship. Yes, that's why I mentioned James Mason, because I like his voice too. Very distinct voice. So, where do we get to? Very happy Mondays. Content creators have a good amount of choice in how to gatekeep access to their communities on this platform. Some put ethics before engagement, others not so much. Question incoming. Yeah, I'd be interested in your question. How to gatekeep access to their communities on this platform? I don't really know how to gatekeep it, other than if I see something, as I say, if I see something threatening, or if I see something that is deliberate trolling, or if I see something predatory, yeah, I'll get rid of them. But other than that, I'm not sure what I could do to gatekeep. I don't know how. I wouldn't particularly want to stop people coming on to it. I'd like to hope they're going to learn something. I'm not quite sure. So anyway, I'll keep an eye out if the question comes up. Oh, I found it. I found it. After moderating for a few channels and seeing a variety of toxic troll patterns, how do you think people can tell if a channel is relatively safe space? Very happy Mondays. Your question is clear. After moderating for a few channels, I'm guessing you have maybe moderated for a few channels, and you can see a variety of troll patterns. How do you think if people can tell if a channel is a relatively safe space? I don't know if you can always tell, because this is the thing about trolls and predators. Some of them have had a lot of experience at being controlling and manipulative. A lot of them being very good at pulling the wool over people's eyes. Was it the wolf in sheep's clothing? I think whenever you start to see, I'm just guessing. I'm not thinking about YouTube, but I'm thinking about maybe a Facebook page, or I think Twitter does pages. I'm not sure where there's maybe a specific thing, and they're being moderated. If someone is engaging in a particular way, if one of the moderators kick in, tell them to rein it in, knock it in the head, stop it, whatever, and they continue, and they are removed, I think that's a sign of something being space. That they're not. They might give someone the benefit of the doubt. That's the thing. Maybe this is naive of me, but sometimes I do. I give people the benefit of the doubt. Someone could have had a bad day. Someone could have misread something, misinterpreted something. They're not always deliberately misrepresenting something, and they're not always deliberately mean all day and every day. So I will give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. And I'm not just talking about social media, I'm talking about day-to-day life. It's whenever that pattern continues, as I say, you recognize patterns, then no further engagement. I'm not sure how I could answer that with a definitive do this or look at that. I think sometimes it does require, if you're going into something new, it's like even if you go into a new place of work, you're going to take a while to get to know people. You're not necessarily going to tell them everything about you. You're going to take a while to get to know them. You're going to allow them to get to know you a little piece at a time. You're not going to share everything with them straight away. And I think the online world is exactly the same. Even if you do feel safe and comfortable, even then you don't necessarily want to be sharing everything, okay? Because don't forget, the trolls and the predators can still creep in sometimes. So it is always about trying to keep yourself safe. Again, I'm not sure I could give you a definitive answer about definitely do this or definitely look for that. But definitely have a look somewhere. Again, if it is like a Facebook thing or something, have a look. Are there moderators on it? And what do the moderators look out for? What are the actual rules on that site or that forum? It could be no personal information, no bad language, no derogatory language, no, whatever it is. Have a look at the rules, and then as you're maybe reading through posts, have a look to see, is anyone behaving like that? Because maybe if people are behaving like that, then you see the moderators aren't really doing their job, so maybe it's not really a safe place. I wish I could say more than that. I don't really have anything other than that. Because again, you're talking to somebody that's not an expert on social media. I always think if I knew how social media worked properly, I would have a far bigger channel and much more people watching me and so on. But I really don't know how algorithms work, and I don't know how to outrage people enough, or interest them enough, or entertain them enough. So where did we get to? Heard a narc expert say their minds are like AI. What do you think? Dr. Susan, that is a very, very good question, and it's one I hadn't considered until you've asked it. And just as you're asked it, I'm going to give you my immediate reaction. Yes, they are like AI. And I will explain why. AIs are learning machines. The analogy I always use about narcissistic people, and I'm talking about narcissistic personality disorder, okay? I'm talking about the dark personality types where you also see things like psychopathy and Machiavellianism and even the sadism. The example I often use is in the Terminator movie, the first one, the very first one, not all the nonsense sequels. But in the very first Terminator movie, there's a scene where the guy that goes back in time, he has to protect this girl, as you know, I'm sure you've seen it, because she's going to be the mother of the guy that saves them all in the future. And she can't understand what's going on. She's like in a state of shock. She's terrified. She just wants to get away. And he tries to explain to her, this is a machine. This machine doesn't have a conscience. It doesn't feel guilt or remorse or pity. You can't reason with it. You can't bargain with it. It only has one program, and it will not stop until it completes that program. Now, that sounds a bit dramatic, but let's go a wee bit further with this. If you remember that Terminator machine, that T-800 as it was called, it's a learning machine. It learns phrases, it learns tactics, it learns what to do and what to say in certain situations. So, when you are saying about a narcissistic person being like AI, yes. In that sense, yes. They learn what to do and what to say in order to get your attention, how to flatter you, how to get money off you, how to get whatever it is they're looking for, your validation, your sympathy, your pity, whatever. And they have had a long time to learn that. They've been learning that from the person before you and the person before them and the person before them. They've learned these things the whole way throughout their life. They're learning new tactics. And whenever they meet someone for the first time, they're looking at someone, they already have this idealized version, but they are looking to see what that person likes, what that person is afraid of. It's when they're asking questions and so on, getting to just sound like innocent questions as people get to know each other. But what they're doing is they're storing up a lot of information. What are your values? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What school did you go to? What subjects did you pick? What things do you regret that you wish you had have done? And what you find is they start to become the very thing that you like, the thing that you find attractive, the thing that you think is missing in your life, the very thing that you think is going to complete you or whatever. Now, that's just like an AI in the sense that the AI, you program the AI, maybe it's the other way around. You program the AI, but the AI is a learning machine. It's learning what you want to hear, how you want to be talked to, the kind of information that you want to look for. The more you use it, the more it's learning from you. So yeah, I would say that not just narcissism, but people on that whole tetrad spectrum, I would say yes, they can be like AIs, constantly learning. Okay. Also, this is the thing about the AI. You could have an AI that is telling you how special you are and how amazing you are and how you've got this, you can do this, and you're the best, and so on. The AI does not even know you. It's just learning phrases. It's just learning things. It's learning how to engage with you. Okay. And a narcissistic person would be very much the same. Okay. They learn how to engage with you. Use the kind of language you like. If you want funny, they are the funniest person in the room. They are absolutely hilarious. They will laugh at anything, doesn't matter. Started raining. Oh, the rain's hilarious. You like intelligent? They will start making up things about Dostoevsky or whatever, applied quantum physics, and I don't know, whatever, using phrases that they've picked up, things that sound really intelligent. You want brave? Oh, tell you what, they have slayed so many dragons you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, they will become whatever it is they think you want or you're interested in. That was a really interesting question about, yeah. Thank you for that question. I hadn't considered it before. Back to James Mason. Loved him in North by Northwest. Yeah, he was good in that. He was good in that as the villain. It wasn't a big role, but it was almost one of his last roles. I liked him in the 70s version of Salem's Lot. He was so very sinister, so calm and polite and gentlemanly, but he was just so good. He was just so sinister in it. You just felt uneasy with him the whole time. Yeah, so I liked him in that. Anyway, back to where we're going. Again, jumped all over the shop, so let me see if I can get back to where we got to. If I can find where we get to. Reality wins. Oh, I caught a lie. Well, it's good to have you here, Reality wins. Nice to have you here. Let me see. Where do we get to? Again, looking for a question. If I can see a question mark or something that looks like a question, it's going to be easier for me. So many bots with fake pages hiding in plain sight. Perhaps content creators have to choose between getting higher numbers of engagement versus eliminating risky people. Yeah, I think you're right. There could be something moral in that. What I would say is, when you said about the bots, they're not real people in the first place. So if you get rid of them, you haven't really lost any engagement. If you have like risky people, predators and trolls like that, again, I would suggest you're not really getting engagement. I would say that if a troll goes on my video, unless they're trolling me, by the way, unless they're giving me a hard time about something, if they go onto a video, they're probably looking through all the comments, looking for someone that they can pester, okay? Or several people they can pester. If they do that, they're not watching the video, so there's no real engagement. So it doesn't really matter. So I haven't really lost anything if they go away, or if they are blocked, because of their bad behavior or whatever. I haven't really lost anything. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe others might see that differently. But you're really losing engagement by someone that's not really engaging with you in the first place. They're just trying to annoy people. So, I don't know. The benefit of the doubt is good, but when someone is taking advantage of your good nature, you need to pull back. Yeah, giving someone the benefit of the doubt is not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, as always, there are always exceptions, some things you don't want to trust some people with. You don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt in some areas. But giving someone the benefit of the doubt doesn't necessarily mean you're weak or anything. You could give them the benefit of the doubt. They let you down. Oh, your boundaries kick in, okay? As I always say, you do not need to explain to someone why your boundaries are important. It's up to them to explain why they think they're not, okay? So you don't need to explain yourself. Where do we get to? Every time I go to answer a question, it jumps. No, I'm glad people comment, but it makes it hard for me to find where I was. Where did we get to? I know there's some conversations going on here, so that's kind of fine. That's okay. I don't want to jump in and interrupt people. Chats are difficult to express emotions, hence the use of emojis. Younger folks don't seem like using them. Yeah, I didn't know it was a young old thing. I didn't know that. I would use emojis. Usually, my go-to is just like a thumbs up, but sometimes I put a smiley face or something. I think there's nothing wrong with them. I think it just comes down to personal taste. That's all. Whether or not you want to use them, it's entirely up to you. Where do we get to? Oh, someone has mentioned true crime. True crime wasn't somebody mentioned about the it was reality win. So the true crime community is not safe. Um I'm gonna guess true crime, is that maybe on YouTube or is that maybe on something else? It could, if it is, again, I'm not sure how it's done on YouTube, if at all. Maybe if you had a team of people. I don't have a team of people. I've only got Freud, and he's a dog. He's no use. He can't read, and if he could, he can't use a keyboard, so he can't do anything. So it's only me, and I only get to catch comments maybe once, twice a day, because there can be so many, and I do have other stuff going on in my day-to-day life. I try to catch what I can. Some might have moderators that do, or someone or some people, and they do moderate a lot of stuff, so they can filter out stuff, get rid of stuff, and so on. But other than that, I think, as I say, on Twitter, Facebook, places like that, there may be moderators. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying about the true crime not being safe. It could be lack of moderation. I really don't know, and really depends on what you mean by safe as well. True crime, I'm just imagining, true crime is a fascinating kind of area, especially when you're talking about things like psychopathy and so on, and crimes and what have you. There's a lot of intrigue there, a lot of mystery there, and so on. And that's going to attract a wide range of people, I'd imagine. But it probably, just like everything else, it's probably going to attract trolls that don't like your opinion or don't care about your opinion. They just want you to engage. As I say, they just want to frustrate you, wind you up. Um, could well be a place for, as I say, the predators as well, which is kind of ironic, given true crime could be talking about predators, and yet there's predators in the comment section. So where did we get to? What if predator tries to go real life when you refuse to engage? I've really no idea. It really depends on the person. What you generally find is some are just going to go away and try someone else. Some are going to get very angry because you wouldn't give them what they want. This is usually going to be online, though. I think sometimes, again, it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. What you might find with an online predator is they're not just talking to one person. They're just trying to coerce one person. You probably find they're doing it with maybe half a dozen people at the same time. What I found out was those romance scams, where someone sends you a picture of, I don't know, maybe a girl, she looks about 25, she's wearing a bikini, or some guy who's, standing on a yacht with sunglasses or whatever, these affluent, beautiful people. And they contact you and they start flirting with you and wanting to get to know you and so on. You probably find there is some bloke on a keyboard. Maybe he's about my age, who knows? And all he's trying to do is get your bank details off you. He's trying to get you to send him money or whatever. It's not real. And you probably find that person is contacting several people. They're just scam artists. That's all they are. Where do we get to? Mostly follow hobbyists, artists, interests. Don't count. There are a whole lot of creepy people. If you like creative people, there is someone on YouTube. I don't often recommend people's channels. Sometimes I do if I've spoken with them or if I find they have something interesting to help people. But if you're interested in a really good channel from a very creative person, there's someone, and she comes onto this channel occasionally. She's called Lady Campion, and she has got the most amazing voice. Her voice is beautiful. Do you know what? I could listen to her all day. Sometimes when I'm doing a little bit of work about the place, if I'm just at home, I kind of have her on in the background, and I'll run back and forward and change to another song. But yeah, if you want something that's really nice, calming, soothing, really lovely, an absolute joy to listen to, yeah, listen to her. If you like creative people and talented people, yeah, I'd say try her channel out. I am amazed she does not have a bigger following, because she is so good. So where did we get to? So yeah, I'm just looking at time. It's 10 to 10. It's actually later than I thought. I wonder if it's more Twitter or DMs. I don't do Instagram either. I think different platforms are more conducive to predators than others. Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but as I say, like once a month or something, I might look at it briefly. I don't do anything. The number of times I will get a message from someone, whether it's Instagram or whether it's Twitter, and I would just put out wee things here and there. But the number of times I will get a message from someone telling me how amazing my channel is and that they can get me millions of subscribers in the next month or something, and I won't owe them any money if it doesn't work. Some of that might well be genuine. Some of it might really well be, and they're just people who are genuinely looking for work, and I really don't have a problem with that. But then there's the other ones, and again, if you don't message them, they just keep on messaging you the same message. They keep spamming you. So yeah, I kind of know that they're the ones maybe definitely not to engage with. I think as well, if I was to say to someone, no, look, thanks for your attention, I'm good, okay, and they'll leave you alone, fair enough. But then they keep coming back with all these questions, well, do you not want to own a yacht? Do you not want to save money? Do you not want to make money? Do you not want to be famous? Do you not want to be 20 years younger? Do you not want to have a third leg or something? Whatever it is, you feel as if you're doing something bad for telling them no. No, I generally know people like that. No, I'm not interested. Anyway, come to the end of this evening. I do appreciate your time and attention. I hope you find this helpful. Looking at the troll and the predatory behavior, looking for those patterns, just little things you can do to keep safe. You don't give away too much information. Don't engage if you don't want to. If you have to, use the block button, and different things like that. I'm hoping, because of the odd weekend, I haven't actually got a video done for tomorrow. That's on me. Sorry. I will try and get one done maybe tomorrow afternoon. The topic is, it's a different one. It's similar to something I talked about previously, and it might have been about a year, probably 2 years ago by now. I talked about indifference. And I'm doing a different slant on it. I'm just going to do it in a video as opposed to the live stream I did. I'm going to talk about the power of indifference, what your disinterest, your indifference does to someone who feeds off your energy, feeds off your attention, needs your constant validation and your collusion. What happens when you stop giving up, when you really stop caring? It doesn't matter what they're performing in front of you. You're not bothered by their threats. You have no sympathy for their drama. Whenever you just stop caring, put it that way, you just stop caring. Whenever you stop caring and they can't get your attention, they can't get your validation, what actually happens to that narcissistic person, that kind of that implosion that begins to happen? Not just that they see you're too strong for them. It's not that you're even showing that you're strong. It's just you're not showing them anything. Okay? You're not being dismissive. You're not rolling your eyes. You're not doing whatever it is. It doesn't matter what they do, what promises they make, what threats they make. Their sore foot starting to play up or whatever. They're not long for this world. They've only got another 30 years to live or something. Whatever it is they come out with, you do not care. And I mean, you're not just showing them you don't care. You really don't. You're past caring. You are done. You've been used enough. Okay, that parasite ain't getting any more from you. Okay, no matter how it tries to latch on, they're sitting there in front of you with their umbilical cord trying to plug it in, and you look the other way and you go back to reading your book, whatever it is. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. I will try and get that done for tomorrow. If I do, it'll be a bit of a rush. If not, you will definitely get it on Tuesday. But I'm sorry, but even I need to have the odd day off. So, and oh, very happy Mondays. Thank you very much. That is super kind of you. I really appreciate that. Freud, sausages this week. Again, thanks for joining me, everyone. I really appreciate it. Now, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your questions, because I wouldn't really have much to talk about unless people were engaging with me. So I will be back again, as always. I will be back again next Sunday. Again, I will put it out there, whatever topics you might like me to cover. And until then, take care, everybody. See you soon.